so you'll probably have a different idea of it than I do. I'd love to get you writing a little bit. I think an hour is very short, but maybe 2 prompts or so. Does that sound good to everybody? I think if we had 2 hours, we could do 3 or 4 prompts and like a lot of sharing. But it would be nice to know who's in the room for one thing. Can we do like just the quickest intros ever? Can we do that real quick? Can we just say like, my name is John Wall Barger. I teach at the University of the Arts. I teach creative writing. I'm from Canada. And oh yeah, maybe one piece of art that you love, real quick. I love the Marcel Duchamp room in the museum, in the Philadelphia Museum, and especially that oddball secret back room. Okay, can I get you folks to introduce yourselves real quick? Turn on your mic. Maybe I could just say people's names. Gabriel.
Hi, Gabriel Cleveland, managing editor for Cavan Carey Press, MFA in poetry writing. Piece of art that I love. I love too much. I'm gonna go wide and say the video game The Witness is a piece of art that I love.
Wonderful, thank you, Gabriel. Lupita.
Hey, I'm Lupita I. Tucker. I am a poet and a translator. I am a first-year MFA student at the University of Florida, and I live in Florida. And I think that the first thing that popped into my head when you said a piece of art is I am a huge fan of The Awakening, which is a sculpture by Seward Johnson.
Beautiful, thank you so much. Courtney, you're part of the group. Can we slip you in there? No?
I'm Courtney Vambrick, poetry editor, Philadelphia Stories, and the piece of art that first popped into my mind when you said, what's a piece of art that you like? Sign of the Times by Prince, I'll say.
Fabulous,
the album.
Fabulous example. I always love to be in a room with you, Courtney. I hope we can catch up soon. Amy Beth?
I too love the Duchamp. I'm Amy Beth. I am a poet and I also write fiction, and for children, I have a piece out in Highlights High Five magazine, which makes me extraordinarily happy. The piece of art I thought of was the Van der Weyden, The Crucifixion, also at the PMA.
Beautiful example. Thank you so much, Amy.
Thank you.
Zandra?
Mm-hmm. I'm a poet, a writer, business owner. I lead writing retreats, teach meditation. The piece that came to mind, I'm not recalling the name right now, but I didn't know I was a Pollock fan until I walked into a room at the MoMA a couple of years ago and got completely sucked into this Pollock. I could still be there staring at it.
I love it when painting makes me feel something. It's like, it's just, I get very emotional walking around the museum here. Holly.
Hi, I'm Holly from Costa Rica. I'm a poet and a fiction writer. I have a PhD in poetry, which gets me like $0 a year. Really good choice there. And let's see, a favorite work of art, I'm kind of writing about a certain kind of still life that the Dutch did. It's called a late breakfast, and it's the evidence of lovers in bed, having breakfast in bed with like overturned glasses and empty ewers and stuff.
I love it. What a mood that evokes. I think
Broken
I know
bread.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Holly. Rachel?
Hi, I'm Rachel Cobin. I am the director of the Philadelphia Writers Workshop. And God, art, so much. But the first thing that came to mind was that glow of Rothko paintings. That makes my soul go, oh, yeah.
Oh, I love Rothko so much. Thank you so much. Kiara?
That was amazingly close. Closer than most people get. It's Kiara. I use she, her pronouns, and I am primarily a dance teacher in the Seattle area, but I have a creative writing minor, and I've been published in a few poetry publications over the years as well. And I have a lot of kidlit happening on my writer's desk. So I'm also splitting time with that in this conference. The first thing that came to mind art-wise was the Seattle Art Museum had an exhibit through the fall and winter called Flesh and Blood, which was Italian masterpieces. And I was just like consumed. I went so many times to that exhibit. But since Courtney said a piece of music, and I'm a dancer, there's also a piece called The Calling by Jessica Lange, which is a solo with this like massive white skirt, and it's heartbreaking, and it's like 3 minutes long, and it changes your whole world. So
thank you so much, Ciara. And it's so nice to see people folks from all over.
With a hard C.
Ciara, thank you. Carol?
Hi, I'm Carol, and I'm a poet, fiction writer, and I edit flash fiction easy. When you say art, I guess I would say like music of Mozart, music of Camille Saint-Saëns, and without I put on the spot, anything by Van Gogh. I just love Van Gogh. So
beautiful.
I'm inspired by those pieces of art.
Beautiful answer. Thank you, Carol, so much. Allison?
Hi, my screen says Greifenstein, but that's my married name. I write under Allison Hicks, and I write poetry and some fiction and nonfiction, and I lead workshops, Greater Philadelphia Word Shop Studio. And pieces of art too came right to mind to me. Matisse's La Danse, and also Stravinsky's Rite of Spring.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful examples. Yes, I love both of those. Thank you so much, Allison Hicks.
All right. I have to figure out how to change my screen at some other time.
Now we got a few videoless folks, but I'll call on you anyway. Maria?
Yes, hi. Hi, I'm a music teacher, and I also received my MFA from Rosemont College a couple of years ago. In terms of piece of art, I would have to say physical art, the Caravaggio, which is called The Burial of St. Lucy, which I saw at an international writers retreat with Rosemont in Italy, which was wonderful. And because I'm a music teacher, I have to say a musical piece also, Aaron Copland's Appalachian Spring.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. Christine? We got some dark screens here. I'm not sure if these folks are, they could be taking a little nap. I don't know.
That's Christine Weiser. So she may be sort of here, but not here.
Okay, gotcha. And I see a Thornton Blees.
Hello, everybody. Now, hello. I'm actually a children's book writer and illustrator, so I can both write and draw. And I've done poetry in the past. I have an MFA in writing books for children and young adults from the New School. And my favorite piece of art, one of them would have to be the Sultan's Horses, even though I don't remember the name of the artist. I just really like horses. I guess I have a horse of my own too, but that's not important. I also really like The Night Watch by Rembrandt.
Oh, yes. Amazing. I don't know the earlier work you mentioned, but I'll look it up. Thank you so much, Thornton.
I can't find any reference of the name of the artist anywhere.
Okay, thank you so much. Did I happen to miss anybody? I think we got all the boxes. We checked all the Zoom boxes.
Couple more came in. So I don't know if we heard from Amy. Adriana is here, and Diane is here as well.
Please, I think we heard from Amy, but please go ahead, Diane.
Okay, so first let me, what do I do, introduce myself?
Just super quick, because we only have an hour. So just a hello and a piece of art that you love.
The anything by Leonardo da Vinci, particularly the Mona Lisa. So
yes,
and
what a beautiful, beautiful example.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. You're Diane.
Yes.
So is there anybody else, a show of hands that I didn't get to can see? Shall we move forward, trucking forward here? All right. Okay, so let me introduce you to this idea of duende. Can you show me a quick show of hands? Has anybody not ever heard of this duende idea? Oh, well, so many powerhouses in the room. I'm sure that you've come across Lorca, Garcia Lorca, the wonderful Spanish poet, who's one of my favorites, absolutely. So let me just introduce you to this idea, and I'll give you a few different perspectives of it, and I'll give you my sense of it. And then I'll talk about how it's a tool, a possible tool for entering poems. And I'll give you a couple of prompts, and we'll have some opportunity to share, okay? All right, so first of all, let me say about duende. The etymology of it is duende de casa or dueño de casa, which is the owner of the house. But the way that Lorca described it in a famous lecture, which I'm including parts of and the link to in the handout, he did a lecture in Argentina in 1933 called Theory and Play of Duende. And in that lecture, which I love and I've read many times, he describes duende as like a little goblin creature who kind of has dark thoughts. And let me give you some of the descriptions that he gives. He says that duende will not approach at all if he does not see the possibility of death. If he is not convinced, he will circle death's house. So now, remember, we're talking about art. So we're talking about art. So this is not tame art. This is not Disney or Pixar. This is art where the possibility of death is in the room. Okay, so that's kind of the realm that we're in. So it's not a literal goblin. It's not a goblin that comes and steals your soul in the middle of the night. It's not a succubus. But it's figurative. It's a way of talking about great art. So duende was Lorca's way, I think, of kind of talking about the heightened emotion and the grit and the struggle that was implicit in his favorite kind of artwork. Duende, he said, is not an angel or a muse. They're much too tame, according to Lorca, but rather a mysterious power that all may feel and no philosophy can explain. Now, my favorite bit of the entire essay of his, he gives all these anecdotes and doesn't really tell you how to process them. But let me just give you this one moment where this old lady who's in a dancing competition suddenly feels charged with the spirit of duende. Okay, let me read you this. So this is from Lorca. Some years ago, in a dancing contest at Jerez de la Frontera, an old lady of 80, competing against beautiful women and young girls with waists as supple as water, carried off the prize merrily by the act of raising her arms, throwing back her head, and stamping the little platform with a blow of her feet. But in the conclave of muses and angels foregathered there, beauties of form and beauties of smile, the dying duende triumphed as it had to, trailing the rusted knife blades of its wings along the ground. So this is the feeling of all of a sudden, you know, like Joan Baez described meeting Bob Dylan. And when she first met him, she said, he looked like such a little toad. She said, I was so surprised that he had this great power in him. And we all know people like this, don't we? It's a kind of charisma that comes out in certain people and certain actors, for example, and certain types of artwork. And sometimes you can meet a very mild-mannered human who ends up making artwork that is filled with a strange spirit. So this is just a way of talking about that kind of spirit. Nick Cave is one of my favorite, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, one of my favorite artists. And he says about duende, all love songs must contain duende, for the love song is never truly happy. So one way of thinking about entering your work and thinking about duende is your struggle. What is your struggle? What struggles have you been through? Because I think art should contain a struggle. Art shouldn't be a simple category. Art is not, good art I don't think doesn't think in a binary way. It's either this or that, but it contains the good and the bad. It contains the struggle as well. Another way to think of it is almost like, I think of it as like daytime logic and nighttime logic. There's a kind of daytime logic which gets us onto, you know, the trolley on time. It gets us to work. It reminds me that I have a Zoom workshop to teach. But then the logic, the part of my brain that goes into writing poems is more of a nighttime logic. It's more associative and less, you know, less prosaic, and definitely wilder, more dreamlike, more liminal. So the latter is more like the area of Duende. So now I'm gonna refer you to your handouts. The Tracy K. Smith, the second paragraph is on the subject that I'm talking about. And then I'm gonna end that and give you a little video, which is also a prompt. But look at the second paragraph, if you can find it, of Tracy K. Smith. And in any case, I'll read it. So she says, she has an article about Duende. This struggle is not merely to write well-crafted and surprising poems, so much as to survive in two worlds at once. The world we see, the one made of people and weather and hard fact, that for all its wonders and disappointment has driven us to the page in the first place. And the world beyond or within this one, that glimpse after glimpse we attempt to decipher and confirm. Survival in the former, so the former being the real life with our friends and the trolleys and practical considerations, is predicated on balance, perspective, rehearsal, breadth of knowledge, and experience. It's possible to get by as a poet with those things alone. Many do. A healthy ego doesn't hurt. But for someone fully convinced of the Duende, it's the latter world which matters more. The world where madness and abandon often trump reason, and where skill is only useful to the extent that it adds courage and agility to your intuition. So this is a very personal matter that we're entering into here, and I can't tell you how to enter into your sense of Duende or nighttime logic or the kind of irrational inner world that Tracy K. Smith is talking about. I can't tell you how to do that. It either resonates with you or it doesn't. But it's one way of thinking about the world. The practical considerations, the daytime logic, and the wilder inner world of nighttime logic, which is more like Duende, and the smell of death in the room, and the power which no philosophy can explain. Okay? One last way I'll tell you to think about it is I was talking to my friend recently, Zach Savage, and who's a great writer. And I was telling him that I've done this workshop on Duende many times. And I told him I was going to do a workshop on Duende. And he said, and I asked if he had any advice. And he said, yeah, Duende is just when a shadow falls across something, which I think is very powerful. So if you can think of something that you love in the daytime, you know, and then if a shadow falls across it, how it moves from a literal thing that we feel like we understand and into a figurative thing, or a thing that's in danger, or a thing you dream about, something that's not quite literal anymore. So I'll just leave you with that. A shadow, Duende is when a shadow falls across something that you know. Okay? Examples that I've come across, there's many, many examples, and I'll give you a few more, but I just read Eduardo C. Corral's Guillotine, and he just came to talk at UArts. He's an amazing, amazing poet, and his book is full of Duende, I think. Jimi Hendrix, I think of a classic example, playing the Star Spangled Banner at the at Woodstock, and how he bends the story of the Star Spangled Banner into the Vietnam War, and takes the two sides and puts them together. This murders me. Also, for me, being a Generation Xer, Kurt Cobain singing Where Did You Sleep Tonight? And his voice cracks at the end of that, and that cracking is like a deep, deep discomfort. And it's almost like allowing, or do you know in Gimme Shelter, when that backup singer, Mary Clayton, her name was, her voice cracks in the middle? It's like my favorite moment in rock and roll. And I think that is Duende creeping in. It's like things are polished in the daytime. And when you allow them to crack, when you allow the fissures in of the irrational and the nighttime, this is Duende. Okay? All right. So because Duende for Lorca was inspired so much by flamenco dancing and bullfighting. We're not going to really talk about bullfighting. I have very mixed feelings about bullfighting, but I just trust that it's, you know, it's part of that culture. This is the Roma culture of Andalusia in Spain that was so important to Lorca. So I'm going to give you a little moment that I found online from this movie Carmen from 1983. I wonder if this is going to let me share screens. Oh, host has disabled attendee share screening. Can you let me do that, or is that?
I just made you host, but then you have to give it back.
Okay, I promise to give it back. Hey, it let me do it and everything. Okay, so let me find this real quick. Okay. There we go. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna, can you see the video? I haven't started it yet. I'm gonna play this video. It's about 5 minutes long and it's from Carmen. I'm not gonna give you any context, but whatever you're feeling from it, just write something. And think of this Duende idea as you're writing it, okay? So you can write while we watch this, and I'll give you a few minutes afterward as well, and then we'll reconvene after. So I'm giving you very little instruction aside from to be inspired by this somehow, okay? 1, 2, 3, go.
Cristina, mira, tú te sientas por aquí, sientas a la Carmen por allí, las demás las cambias como veas tú.
¿Por quién cambio? Vale. Carmen, ¿te quieres cambiar a Blanca? Cámbiate con ella. Sonia, cámbiate con María José. Teresa, tú ponte en aquella silla, ¿vale?
Okay, I don't want to break the spell at all, but let me give you just 3 or 4 more minutes to keep writing or to write down something. Just retain the feeling, whatever feeling that gave you. Remember, we're probably not talking about Duende, but just let the spirit infuse whatever you're writing. 1, 2, 3, go. Say another minute or so. Okay, folks. I always feel like the bearer of bad news when I have to break the spell at the end. It's like coming out of a little dream, right? So we're doing all right for time, and it's always nice to allow people to share, but perhaps we don't have time for everybody to share, but if a few people would like to share either what they came up with or the experience, please go ahead.
Okay, I'm not shy.
Great.
What knife is in my conventional suburban hand? what cruel word, what knowing insult, making sure that you are cut down to size.
Whoa, the knife. That's wonderful, Amy. Thank you.
I gasped when she slit her throat. I mean, I knew it was coming, but I still gasped.
Yeah, that's the Carmen story. I mean, I'm such a mushy, like I just that makes me feel so much, that little piece. Don't you? But go ahead, and you don't have to all love it if you don't want to. Anybody else like to share any part of what you've done?
I'll give it a try. So, and no promises, it's first draft and everything. So, chairs were not musical, boisterous voices silenced into dance, stillness. We too want to move, hungry, tables full of taps turning into shoes, into steps, into women fighting with dance sewn together, pierced. Women fight, floor turns battlefield. Who is the enemy? Dance steps like gunshots, clashing breasts, hips, bodies as weapons. So that's.
Woo! The hunger, I felt the hunger, and the kind of staccato way you read it. I felt the struggle in it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Anybody else? We have time for a couple more people. Any brave souls?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I had something that I wanted to respond to Diane's and it immediately disappeared from my head.
Okay.
I really loved Amy's juxtaposition too of the knife and the like conventional suburbia. What came across to me was the feeling of the rhythm kind of breaking apart, the kind of the structures, the expectations, the things that we know about how our society is held together. So it got big, but thinking about there's one stanza that I could share. We will still be matter, still be solid shards of ourselves, mixed like broken tiles, clinking, slicing as we run our pieces through our fingers.
Oh, that gave me a little feeling in my throat, the shards. Thank you. So we have time for one more, and then we can have one big more juicy prompt. One more brave soul want to step forward?
I'll jump in if no one else wants to.
Yay.
Mine's really short. Heartbeat of hands, stomping of feet, a sensual surge, youth versus age, a challenge, a battle, confidence dressed in black ruffles, matador glare, synchronous vigor to a fatal primal crescendo.
I'm feeling the struggle in all these. You folks are powerhouses. So shall we go on to the next workshop? Thank you so much for sharing. Sorry, the next prompt. Yeah. Okay. So this one, since we have a meaty amount of time, we have still 25 minutes left. We might even be able to, maybe I can give you a prompt you can start and take it and put it in your pocket. So for this next one, it's going to be in a couple of parts. So let me just bear with me, and we'll start with one part that'll just be relatively short, maybe 30 seconds, okay? So for this part, I'd like you to make a little list of a couple of precious things. They could be objects, they could be people, it could be a talisman, whatever you like. So don't think about it too much, but just make a list, and I'll just give you only about 30 seconds. 1 to 3, go. Okay. So yeah, don't think about it too hard, but hopefully you have a couple of different things written down there. So here's what I'd like you to do now. Pick one of those things. Again, don't think about it too much, and do like what I mentioned earlier. Allow a shadow, a figurative shadow, to fall across that thing. And I'd like to incorporate a little bit of Lorca here. Lorca loves the archetypal. Lorca loves the deep song and Andalusia and like almost kind of Joseph Campbell, the deep images of many cultures. So what I've done here is I've included a bunch of kind of random Lorca words, her cheekbones, weep. He likes the word, he wouldn't say cry, he would say weep. And then I've added a few of my own: headlights on the ceiling, dry land, white serpent, silence, heart. So this is not a time for irony. This is not a time for, being clever. It's a time for sincerity and for allowing the possibility of mystery and death in the room. Or like somebody quoted the wonderful Leonard Cohen quote, there's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. So allow a crack in your relationship with that thing. Okay, so can I give you 5 minutes to do that? So write something about the thing you've chosen, allowing a shadow to run across it, and use as many of those Lorca words as you can. Okay, is that totally clear? Clear as mud? Okay, 5 minutes, 1 to 3, go. Okay, folks. That's 5 minutes. Can I continue the prompt a little bit further, a little bit deeper? Okay, so now look at what you have there. You should have something, either a poem looking thing or a paragraph or something. And I'm just gonna give you about 2 minutes to go to that, and don't think very much, but just underline or highlight, if it's on a computer, the gold, the stuff that jumps out at you, and none of the filler, none of the connecting things, only the gold. Okay, so 2 minutes not to think, underline the gold. 1 to 3, go. Okay, that's about 2 minutes. Now, none of this should be, I don't think, too much thinking. Like, you shouldn't be kind of stopping and thinking, what do I really think about this? Just let your lizard brain take over, you know? So now you should have something written, and then the highlighted parts, the gold underlined or highlighted. Now, I'm gonna give you another, like maybe 3 or 4 minutes. Take only the gold and make that into something. Like, put that into a new form, either a poem or whatever form you like. So extract the gold, like a dentist. No, the dentist does the opposite. Okay, 1 to 3, go. Okay, another minute or so to go. Okay, folks. Thanks for bearing with me with my 4-pronged prompt there. Yeah, of course, you all know that, I mean, everybody has a different brain and a different approach to poetry. So that's what I like to do sometimes, is kind of do workshops where I use the approach that I often do, which is to not think too much, but just free write for a while, and then find the gold in there and extract it and take that to the next step and keep doing that, like a snake shedding its skin, you know? So that might not be the way you work, but hopefully it was useful. Would anybody like to share? I think, if Courtney can confirm, I think we have 9 minutes, 9 whole wonderful minutes left, juicy minutes. Would anybody like? Yes.
Okay, hang on 1 second. I gotta pull this up so I can read it.
Yeah.
Do I need to tell you what the object was?
Not at all. Only if you want to.
Okay. Well, it kind of makes sense, so I should tell you. They're earrings, and they're called gandongas.
Huh.
Silver hammered into coiled twists, hung like shining altars, hung like portals from my earlobes. In my reflection, I see a city of silver, my parents' honeymoon, a lost lineage. Bought for $50 on eBay, worn 4 months straight until the supple silver hooks bent too far and broke.
Oh. Thank you, Lupita. Enjoyed that. Any other brave soul like to share? I see Rachel. Please go ahead.
Okay. Baby's breath, still as stone, womb wept, seeds swept, buried backyard, blooms crumbled, cheekbones hollowed. Stay, stay, darkness, keep her warm.
Oh. I like the cheekbones and the were there stones, a couple of Lorca, wonderful Lorca, the blooms. Beautiful. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to share either what you came up with or whatever part of it you'd like? Yeah, Jonathan, I see Jonathan's hand.
Hi. So here goes mine. Chest a dome white, aside from daggered shadow, he observes a pause in all things, eyes 2 olives and mineral of moon. His heart is a bell, and should ring desert song, like night wind beating sand dunes, like the furthest trilling of locust. The slightest touch, softer than lamplight, spills further than dawn over mountains.
Wow! Jonathan, that was making me feel things. That was like a Lorca, an actual Lorca poem. That was amazing.
Thank you.
Nice work. Anybody else? Please. Yeah, eyes 2 olives. Any other brave souls? Courtney, please.
Fun. Okay. All right. So the distance between my own arms, the song sung to strangers, rooms I cannot enter. A firefly flickers until it dies. A firefly is dead in me. A slotted spoon tries to scoop up a heart, floating in broth, in silence, dissolving into oblivion. My own arms, white serpents, coiling around wind. My own arms, tributaries of a river weeping below the laughter on the banks, in the balconies.
I was on board already with the fireflies, but then your arms became these otherworldly things, and wow, that went deep. Thanks, Courtney. We might have time for one more brave soul, maybe. Anybody else?
I always like to share, but I never want to take away from other people when I've already shared once.
I'd love to hear what you came up with.
The lilies on the walls of the labyrinth soften the silence of dead ends. The distance to the village is infinite. You can only go deeper into yourself, and the comfort of home is always outside of you. The fog in the tunnel is thick as stone, but walk through it. The lilies, dripping with damp, will cool your thirst. Stick out your tongue, lap up the water that runs through your soul.
Wow. Thanks, Kiara. Do you know what I really liked about Kiara's, and I think about everybody who read, was a sense of the inner and the outer. Like I kept getting flashes of the person's inner world, the cave inside the person, and then external. I like it when the brain flashes back and forth that way. I feel like that archetypal language helps the brain to do that, to kind of accommodate that inner space, you know? Because poems, if they're too literal, it's hard to make that jump. It's like a poem in the friend zone or something, you know, stays too literal and narrative and prosy. So how do we get it into the internal? So I find Duende and this archetypal language is useful for that. So I think, Courtney, we just have a minute or two left, right? 4 minutes left?
About 4 minutes, yeah.
4 minutes. So perhaps I can just say a few closing words and can I give you another prompt to put in your pockets? Maybe you won't have time to do it now, but maybe later on. And of course, these prompts are not meant, in my mind anyway, they're not meant to create finished work, but just to kind of suggest a direction you can go in, and maybe to give you a draft that is promising for you to follow up on later, of course, right? So here's my idea for a third one. Let me just put this in the chat. Okay, prompt 3. So take one of Lorca's words that jumps out at you. I noticed a few of you had chosen the cheekbones or the knife or particular things. So start with one of the Lorca words that catches your attention, and then drag it into your life the way Amy Beth dragged the knife into the suburbs. Yay, Amy Beth. So I don't know why that's, oh, you repeated it. Okay, good. All right, so do that later. And if I could just say a few closing words. So I gave you my my website address in the handout at the top, and also my email if you have any follow-up questions or comments or anything like that. So also I give lots of workshops, and I'll announce those on my website, and I do poetry editing and all sorts of artistic things. I run a series here in Philadelphia, a reading series. So stay in touch if you feel like it. If not, it's been super fun and super nice to meet you. And thank you very much.
I just want to say thank you so much, and we have a lot more going on today. If you want to share anything further in the comments, please do so. I think we have like a little bit of a buffer time at this point, so any comments, anything like that you have. Otherwise, feel free to move on to your next Zoom room situation. And thank you so much, John. This was so great. And yeah, I'm excited to sit with the next prompt and to kind of revisit some of these prompts also. Yeah.
You're very welcome, Courtney. It's always a pleasure. Yeah, if anybody, I'm here for the next 10 minutes. If anybody wants to have any comments or questions, you want to talk about anything?
I just was wondering if you would repeat the Lorca words for us. I just,
Like repeat them, like to put them in the chat again?
yeah. Oh, were they in the chat? I'm so sorry. Spaced out, sorry.
No problem.
I can look
Sure.
in the chat if they're there. That's
I'll put them,
There they are. They're there. They're there. Gabriel, thank you.
yeah, thank you. I don't have a mailing.
Yeah.
You asked me if I have a mailing list, or are you asking Courtney? I have an events page on my website, is the closest I come to that. And then I put things on social media.
Okay.
Thanks, Amy. Amy, are you in Philadelphia?
Swarthmore.
Okay. All right.
And
wanna take-
your email is on the in the doc, right? All of that information about
Yeah,
your website and everything
It's just
is in
my
the
full
document.
name, johnwallbarger@gmail.com.
Great.
I was gonna say, I wanted to say that everyone did a really good job reading, and I liked everybody's poems. And I'm actually part of a group that does virtual open mics. So if anybody wanted to attend these, we do one every month, and a good amount of people come to these. We also do workshops, which are a little bit smaller and they're more focused on prose. But if you wanted to come to that, that's also available. And I'll share with you guys the link if any of you are interested in that sort of thing.
Thank you, Jonathan. And thank you for reading.
All right, so I have a couple people coming in here now for the next session. So just sort of dissipate, go where you gotta go, do what you gotta do. And yeah, thank you so much, John. Thank you, everybody else. And yeah, welcome to the new round of folks. I think I have a new host coming shortly. We'll see how that goes. And hopefully we get to see one another in another session coming up.
Okay, thanks, Courtney. Bye-bye.
Okay, great. There you are.
Hi,
I see you now. I
I'm
didn't see
Renee
you.
Giulio, so you can make me host, and I'll put the
I
put the
just
slide
did.
up. Okay. So I think I'm wrapped up in my room here.